can't remember when I met Lotfi. It's, you know, I don't, the way I can describe meeting someone for the first time, someone you admire and respect, is, I know this is maybe a little off the charts, but before I had my children, once they arrived, I felt like they'd always been there. I felt like they'd been sort of tucked away in my heart or somewhere inside me. So I knew them. I knew what they were going to be like the minute I saw them, even though they were that big. And I guess it's a little bit the same with Lotfi and Jackie, is I feel that they were part of my world before they probably were, because maybe the impression they made was so enormous when I met them. Anyone in the business just adores Lotfi. Lotfi Mansouri is one of the great human beings of all time. He's, you know, theater in his blood, knowledge, intelligence, again, a terrific understanding of human nature. And, you know, it's one thing to understand human nature. It's another thing to like it, you know, to forgive it and to be able to manage a road that is successful for what he's trying to do and for what other people are trying to do. I mean, I don't know how anybody is a general manager. He also is a great leader. Lotfi has wonderful ideas and he's very, very committed to them. What he does in that office, I have no idea. I think it's a huge cauldron of magic and he just stirs up magic. I can't fathom it. The contracts, the dealing with people, the being on call backstage, giving people the sense that they're appreciated. He just never stops. And you know, he's ageless. He's absolutely ageless. And the most fun I've had with him was not long ago on a train from London to Paris. We were doing these Viardot songs, and I got to hear so many marvelous stories because he has this repertoire of experience that is just magic. It was very positive. I thought it was. I really did. I was lucky enough to work under like 4 or 5 administrations at San Francisco, and the first was Kurt Herbert Adler, who I also absolutely adored. And he could be, you know, a tyrant, apparently. But you felt that everything was attended to, that every detail was in place, so that you had the support of the opera house when you got out there. And every single person felt that way. You know, the tenor, the baritone, the chorus, that he had done everything he could to achieve this coordination of talents and gifts. And so to me it was always a great joy to see him, and I always felt better. I felt like he thought I could do it, so then I thought I could do it. And my career practice had been for years to not really even know who the general manager was of a company, because I just felt that's just one more distraction in a way. I'll try and, did they like it? You know, should I smile? Should I be? And if I did meet them, I was always delighted, and I admire them enormously. And I admire Peter Gelb and David Gockley and all the young general managers now. But in the old days, I hardly knew what they looked like. But Lotfi, I was lucky enough to know what he looked like. Well, that was, you know, what an idea that Lotfi had, especially with Dead Man Walking. You know, that he would get behind with all his heart and soul a young composer who had never done an opera. And I think, like a lot of great performers, you know, Lotfi's an actor and a singer, they have an incredible instinct. And I'm sure that lots of what Lotfi has done has been based on his knowledge, his incredible knowledge, but also his instinct. And that had to have been sheer instinct, and it was probably one of the greatest experiences of my life to see that put together, because it's a topic that is Dead Man Walking is so much a part of our lives today, though most of us haven't come across a capital murder or a prison experience, is very much a part of our world. And it's something that needs an enormous amount of awareness. And to present it to the public in this magnificent story of forgiveness and understanding and redemption and love, deep, deep love, because that's what this, I think, the story is about. It's this, wonderful nun responding to this man who is just the antithesis of everything she has been grown up to think that humankind can be. And he's done an evil thing, a terrible act, but he loves her in the end, and she loves him with that pure human response. And it was amazing to be a part of that. And that was an amazing production too. And for Lotfi to have the vision, and then our great, 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 great playwright Terence McNally, and to say nothing of Susan Graham, and it was just an extraordinary experience. And Dangerous Liaison was this too. Dangerous Liaison, for me personally, was I was allowed to be everybody and everything I had been brought up not to be my entire life, because I was trained by the Convent of the Sacred Heart and went to parochial schools, and never be this awful, self-centered, devious, manipulative woman. I adored every minute, just being mean, and I'm sure that I see Lotfi's hand in a lot of it. It was a fantastic composer, Konrad Sousa, but I see a lot of Lotfi in there too. I think the last words are, "I'm hungry." Let all else be damned. I don't care what lives I've ruined. I'm hungry. Simple, clear. The hard part about Lotfi as a director is that you can never do what he does, because he'll show you and it's perfect. He lands on his heels at the right moment. He moves his hand, he picks up it's just perfect. So you spend the whole time trying to see what did he do? And it's because his instincts are so clear, and his response to music is so clear, and his humor. He has a vision of everything. And I feel that when he's looking at a picture of, especially doing Rosenkavalier with him, where there are many people on stage, almost always, that each of them are based on somebody he knows. Each development of the character that he is trying to get you to be is someone that he knows extremely well. Kept it going and moving into the smaller theater for Bohème. Yeah. And, if you just can imagine what that entailed. And then getting the house redone. That's a lot of work on his part. One of the great things Lotfi has done recently, which has nothing to do with music, but is an act of such extraordinary kindness and gift that I'll mention it. A dear friend of ours and a superstar who had a triumph here in the fall in a piece called The Bone Setter's Daughter. Her name is Zheng Xiao. Was terribly sick on a Friday. And my husband and I went over to, Zheng is a dear friend and almost feel like she's a child of mine. We went to her house, and our first instinct when we were there is, let's call Lotfi. And we called Lotfi, and he got us on to another most beloved person that's part of Lotfi's world, Ernie Rosenbaum, who was the doctor for the house because he loved opera. And it turns out he's retired now, but he's one of the greatest oncologists of all time. By Monday, because of Lotfi's gesture, who not only got Ernie involved, who is terribly ill himself, but took care of Ernie so that he didn't overdo, because he's a dear friend of Ernie's. Because of that, This gal who had an astonishing diagnosis she's not in remission, but she is clear at the moment. Her, you know, her illness is under control, and I'll forever be on my knees. I mean, we all will be. And it was one call to Lotfi, and then he had all kinds of other ideas of how to keep her treatment going and everything. But there's a man he knows how to get things done. And I do credit he and Ernie with this, and modern medicine, and the incredible spirit of this gal. But it's, this is something that was an amazing gesture on his part, like almost every gesture that he has headed my way. I adore surtitles. They increase the enjoyment of the public 500 times. They're not, it's one more step to do them, but my gosh, it's just a night and day difference. I volunteer in Oakland in a school from time to time, and I take some of my kids to the operas, and they just adore it. And weird operas, operas you wouldn't think. Die Tote Stade, which is a fairly complex opera. These are 8th graders. They just love it, and they wouldn't understand anything without the surtitles. And they're funny sometimes, and they're an art in themselves, and it's a huge accomplishment that Lotfi got them. Now I really miss them when they're not there. They're almost always there in opera houses, but in concerts. I think, great general managers do contribute, because what they contribute is their knowledge and their taste. And I think, and trust of young composers. And how exciting is that for this time, to have the acknowledgement of young men like Jake Heggie who know how to write for the voice and are having sensations around the world. I mean, that's thanks to Lotfi. That's very much part of his legacy. He also had an incredible way of integrating film and stage. He would use film at different times for an effect, and he was brilliant at that, and he was open to everything. And he is a great film buff, as you probably know, and there's an enormous amount to be learned from the visual of watching films. And I think his legacy is another great star in the crown of the San Francisco Opera. I really do. I'm so grateful that I had a chance to sing with him.